Isn't it frustrating when you EQ your sounds and for some reason the beat itself doesn't feel better? Well, today I'm going to be giving you the 3 ways to EQ your sounds without destroying your beat. Simple EQ advice for beginning producers who want cleaner beats without overthinking. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Why do producers EQ sounds? Most producers open the EQ because they feel like they're supposed to. But the real reason to EQ is simple: to make the sound fit better inside the beat. So kind of look at it like this. Whenever we're EQing sounds, we're doing it to paint a total picture. So if you take a look at this picture here on the side, you see the monitor is in its own place. You see the speaker is in its own place, the keyboard. So the image itself has its different parts in its own place. But when we look at the overall tone of the picture, we see that filter on there is creating a certain mood. And that's the same thing that we want to do with EQ. We want all the elements to fit in their place, but we want it to still create an entire mood whenever we're listening to the entire beat itself. So the goal isn't just to make random moves or to copy another producer, not to change the sound just because it's open. And that's the thing with the EQ that I used to do in the very beginning. I used to open up the EQ and just start to make moves and shelving and dips and cuts because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. I saw other producers do this on the piano and I thought, okay, let me do this on a piano sound and make it brighter or make it darker because that's just the thing to do with the EQ, and that's not what you want to do. A beginning mistake, and this is what I was just touching on a moment ago. A lot of beginning producers don't really have a reason why they EQ. They see another producer cutting or boosting something and think, okay, I should do that too. But EQ moves are not universal. The same piano sound, the same snare, hi-hat, synth may be totally different depending on the beat. So let's just even say, for example, you make Afro beats or R&B beats or trap beats. Just because you make a certain shelf or dip or cut on this loop or this high synth doesn't mean you're going to do the same thing for every single one. Each sound is unique. Each sound has its own unique characteristic, even if you do tend to follow a certain formula. So don't just operate off of just blatant broad assumptions that I need to just do this just to do this. Okay. Now, tip number 1 to rectify that issue is to have a goal before you actually touch the EQ. Before you open the EQ, ask yourself, what am I trying to fix or improve? And this is one thing that I used to do before I moved out here to Atlanta, and I got a lot of game from the engineers out here in Atlanta, is to really think about what I'm trying to accomplish. I had an engineer just tell me one time, I opened up my EQ, he looked at it and said, okay, why are you doing that? Honestly, I had no idea. So here's some examples. Your piano sounds muddy. Your snare needs more snap. Your high synth, the high end on your synth feels too harsh. The loop is covering up your drums. The goal tells you what kind of EQ move actually makes sense. So figure out where the sound currently is and where you want it to be. And the EQ is basically a vehicle to get you to that destination. Now, you don't want to chase your tail. When you open up the EQ with no goal, you can actually start wasting time. You can cut one thing, boost another thing, then undo it. Make another move, change that. Now you're not improving the beat, you're just chasing your tail. And that's the tricky thing when it comes to frequencies and sounds. There's a lot of psychological things going on. Sometimes we can boost the sound and it can start to get in the way of another sound, or cut a sound and it can start to make something else feel even louder. So your overall goal is to use the EQ to improve the feel of the beat itself, not just to make individual sounds sound different. It's another bad habit I had. I want to give that gem to you guys so you don't make the same mistake that I did. Just shifting sounds, making them sound different, unsoloing it, putting it back in the beat and thinking, oh, okay, I used the EQ, it sounds different, so I'm good to go. Definitely don't want to do that. Number 2, and this is extremely important. I want you guys to take notes, pay attention. Very, very, very important. Your sounds are not living by themselves. Very important. the kick, the snare, the piano, the loop, the 808, they're all fighting for space. There's only so much we can fit inside of the track, inside of the beat sonically, and everything really needs to fit in its own place. So sometimes the problem isn't the sound itself, it's what you added around it. I'm going to give a demonstration on that in a second, but just keep that in mind. It's not always the thing that you're listening to that's causing the issue. So we're going to get into an audio sample in just a second. For example, your kick suddenly feels weak. Let's say you added a kick that sounded punchy, then you added a loop or a piano to that beat. Now, for some reason, that kick doesn't hit the same. Now, you may be thinking, okay, let me go ahead and use the boost knob in FL Studio. Just go ahead and twist it and make it hit harder. Or I'm just going to increase the volume in Logic or whatever you're using. And you're just boosting and boosting and boosting. Then you're boosting the kick. Then you're boosting the snare. Then you're boosting the hi-hat. Then everything is just starting to just chase hitting the digital zero, hitting the master super hard because you no longer have room. The thing is, it doesn't mean that the kick is necessarily bad in this specific example of you adding a loop or piano or anything like that. It's what's around it, what's masking it. The piano, you chose that kick for a reason. Now you add the piano or the loop, and it could have too much mid-range energy, and now it's masking the punch of the kick itself. So let's go ahead and get into an audio example real quick. Okay, so I have this piano loop here. Then I went ahead and added a kick. So let's listen to the piano loop, and then I'm going to add in the kick on the second go round. So let's take a listen. All right, so that sounds good so far. However, that kick has more low end to it, more sub to it that you can't quite hear because that piano has so much density in the low mid range. It's covering up some of the body of the kick. So if you're a producer and let's just say you're relatively new or you just never really put too much thought into this, you may think to jump into the EQ and just start boosting some of the low end of the kick or just making the kick louder instead of pulling out some of the low end of that piano loop. If you like this piano loop, you can actually get it at DesmondASounds.com. It's from my loop pack called Floating Harmonies. So go to DesmondASounds.com, get that right now. It's linked in the description as well. So what we're going to do here now, I'm going to go ahead and open up the parametric EQ. I'm going to pull out some of the low mid energy from the piano so that way the body of that kick punches much harder. So let's take a listen. All right, so that sounds much better. That kick has much more punch, especially if you guys are wearing headphones, it's going to be much more clear. It has more body, has more punch to it, but it's a real kind of, it's a psychological game. It's a game we're playing with our minds and the human ear, because if you didn't really know what was happening, and let's just say you was in the back of my studio, you may think, okay, you did a little something to the piano, but you did some type of boost to the kick. You might have went into the EQ and boosted some of the low mids to the kick to give it more impact. You wouldn't know what I was doing based on simply using your ears. And that's the magic of using this type of subtractive EQ approach where we're taking out some of the denser frequency areas to allow other sounds to shine. And as you can see here, this is a little bit more dramatic than what I would do, but I did this just to kind of make the example a little more clear. So I'm going to go ahead and A and B it. So you're going to watch me play the kick with the EQ on and off so you can take a listen to the difference. So let's go ahead and do that right now. right, and I did my best to not thin out the piano too much. I still wanted to keep that darker tone of the piano. I didn't want it to sound like that, have that radio, clock radio kind of sound. Once again, this is a bit more dramatic than I would normally do in my own beat, just to make you guys be more aware. Also, this kick has a nice little sound on it, so it also makes it easier for the ear to hear. But if you guys are working on a trap beat, an R&B beat, an Afro beat where the kick possibly doesn't have that top end to make it more readily apparent to the ear, this is a great trick. In my Heat Check Live beat review show, I call this opening up pockets. You're just opening up this little space for your sound to live. You can do the same thing with snares, other things like that. You're pulling out space and you're going to allow yourself to have more headroom, and also the sounds get to sit in their own nice little place. So very cool trick, very awesome thing that I've learned, and I've been using this for years, and I hope you guys enjoy this tip. All right, and if you guys like that example, I also go into a lot more tips and tricks in my mixing course, Drum Doctor. You can check that out in the description. So all the cool little gems I've learned over the years for various producers and engineers in my lifetime, I went ahead and packaged this up all for you, so you can go ahead and check out the Drum Doctor course in the description. Also, if you guys need more custom help, one-on-one, we can jump on a Zoom coaching call so I can take a look at your DAW, your music, any type of little issues, quirks, things that just totally frustrate you. Man, there's not much that I haven't seen, as the hundreds of people who've checked out the Heat Check Live beat review show know. I can just jump right in there, figure out what problem you're having, and help you fix that. So you can check that out in the description as well. I'll be glad to hop on a Zoom call and help. All right, so to reiterate, guys, please do not always boost first. A lot of newer producers would boost the kick to make it hit harder in that example we just showed there in the FL Studio, but sometimes the better move is to make space around it. So instead of asking, how can I make the kick louder, ask, what is getting in the way of the kick? And that one question can save your beat and headroom. And once again, that is known as a subtractive approach. Very, very powerful, Jim. Headroom matters. Remember, we're always fighting for headroom when it comes to mixing. Every boost adds more energy. And that's really the magic of what I just showed you guys there. Not only are things sitting in their space more, it's adding clarity and also giving us more headroom. And also, just to give you a little extra secret, little gem, little secret sauce, is that whenever you do that and you have everything in its own space and it's hitting really hard, let's just say you crank the volume up and everything is still hitting, it actually leaves a lot of room for limiting. So if you have everything sounding really good by itself, you decide to add a limiter to it, you'll be shocked at just how, oh my gosh, just how sexy and thick and round everything feels. It's just because you're making something that was already good even better and louder, if you know how to limit correctly. If you don't know how to limit, just stick to basic limiting or stick to using the stock soft clipper in FL Studio, whatever, because I don't want you guys ruining your mix with incorrect limiting. And if you guys want me to do a little presentation or a little video on limiting, let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to make a video for you guys. Okay, so before you boost the sound you already liked, ask yourself, what changed? What is now covering up the sound? Can I make space instead of adding more volume? Very powerful. All right, guys. Now, another tip. Use your ears, not your eyes. Modern EQs show you a lot visually. You can see every bump, spike, and frequency. This could be helpful, but it could also trick you into making unnecessary EQ moves. And if you notice, whenever I was in the parametric EQ in FL Studio, you'll always see me turning off that spectrum analyzer that shows all the energy and the the pink colors and all the little frequency waves that go on there, because I want to use my ears, not my eyes. There's just so many little moving parts and lines, and I'm blasting my music, and some of you guys are, sipping on something or smoking on something when you're making music, man. You could just start to trick yourself. Don't have all these things in the way. So if your ears aren't that trained and you still kind of struggle to hear different frequency ranges, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to some ear training programs. What they do is they boost certain frequency ranges and cut certain frequency ranges. That way you can help train your ears and know what's what. So you can know what part of your sound needs to be reduced or possibly enhanced. And for the longest time, I literally couldn't hear it. I had to work to train myself to hear what does a boost at 3K sound like. But that's a little narrow. I just want you guys knowing the frequency ranges, because you're not gonna. This is not for like professional mixing or anything like that, or trying to mix an album or anything. We want our beats to sound good, but still using that training is going to help you a lot. I promise you. So check that out in the description as well. Very, very useful. Now, speaking of that, piggybacking off of that, is you want to train your palate. And this is essentially relating to the EQ training that I mentioned a moment ago. So it's kind of like this. If you know someone who's a chef and they bite a piece of fish or a piece of chicken, they can start to taste it and they say, this actually has a little bit too much cayenne and a little bit too much oregano. They need to cut back a little bit. And the same thing is true when it comes to mixing, working with audio. As you train your palate, the more experience you have, the more astute, the more sensitive your ears will be on what to pick out. So like food, you could pick out the different spices that are a little too much. You could do the same thing with your ears. You can know that there's too much 300 to 200 hertz in this string. You can know that there's a little bit too much 1K in this high synth that you have going on in your beat. So you want to train your palate. Once again, the ear training resource is linked in the description. Very powerful, especially if you guys want to pivot into working with recording artists, recording vocals in the studio, things like that. Eventually, this is just a gift that keeps on giving. It's a skill that's transferable, and it's going to make you even more valuable, and that's very important, especially as the landscape changes when it comes to music production. All right, so overall, guys, your beat needs to feel good. The goal isn't to make the EQ curve look impressive. The goal is to make the beat sound better and feel better. Especially as a producer, remember this: a serious artist's final song will most likely be mixed by a professional mixing and mastering engineer. Professional mix engineers, guys, have some good interviews on my Made in the Studio podcast. Make sure you guys check out the episodes with Mix by L, very popular mixer here on YouTube. Also, Evan Melville, very talented engineer out here in Atlanta. Make sure you check out their episodes. It's linked in the description as well. You can listen to that after this presentation and get some game on possibly you guys, transferring or getting into the engineering world, possibly in the future. Great nuggets on those podcast episodes. So your job is to make the beat clean, balanced, and inspiring, but not 100% album ready. We want it to sound as good as possible, but engineers are definitely going to go in there and do their thing. We want it to sound good and feel good. And we still want them to hit those speakers whenever they play the beats in the recording studio. So a simple ear test, another powerful gem that I've learned. Very extremely powerful, guys, especially when it comes to working with vocals, but also working with different sounds in your beat. So if you're confused by an EQ move, try this. So close your eyes, okay? Now, when you close your eyes, you're gonna hit the bypass and unbypass button here on your EQ. And you're gonna rapidly click it with your eyes closed. So now you don't know if the EQ is on or off, okay? Now, slowly, you're gonna Then you're gonna ask yourself the question, does it sound better now? Or does it sound better now? So you're gonna play a little game with yourself to figure out, when does the sound and or the overall beat feel better and sound better? And this is a way that you're forcing yourself to use your ears as opposed to your eyes. And guys, I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I've done this and then said to myself, oh crap, I did all those little EQ moves and it actually sounded better bypassed. I just got stuck in my head. I was looking at the pretty colors on an EQ, got ahead of myself. And that bypass test, guys, I'm telling you, extremely powerful, because man, the eyes and the ear and the mind, very tricky, guys. So, all right. Now, quick recap, guys. Have a goal before you open the EQ. Don't just open the EQ because you feel like you're supposed to. Okay, and I see a lot of you guys see these different things on Instagram, even some some producers who are making moves out there, just doing stuff, just cutting for no reason. I see that thing, the cutting of the low end of the 808. Why? Why are you doing that? But I used to do little weird stuff like that. And once again, guys, that EQ test, that's the bypass test I told you here, this is going to also help to level set you so you don't find yourself doing stuff like that. Because unfortunately, if you do that then, and eventually, let's just say you decide you want to work with artists and record them and stuff, you're going to pick up those bad habits. They're going to transfer over, and you're going to do a lot of weird stuff that, people who've been engineering for a while are going to look at you as a bit strange. So you want to get rid of bad habits now and not just hold on to them for no reason. If that makes sense, guys? Okay. Number 2, think about the relationships between sounds. Sometimes another sound is causing the problem. So think about what is relating to the sound that you're thinking about changing. You have a snare that you want to hit a little harder, but you also have a loop that has a whole bunch of high mid frequencies. Do you need to boost the snare, or do you need to open up that EQ and just do a little dip, in the high end of that loop just to make the snare snap harder back to where it was originally when you opened it up? And once again, this is going to keep you from chasing your tail. I did this so much. I wasted years doing stuff like that, guys. So I want to go ahead and help you out in the process. Also, number 3, use your ears, not your eyes. The EQ curve doesn't matter if the beat feels worse. So once you get to the point that you feel like your ears are trained enough, please turn off that analyzer and the EQ. It's very tricky. It can cause you to make very weird decisions, get very surgical for no reason, which I've done myself. You don't really need to be doing all that. Work on your ears, and then you'll be less dependent on your eyes. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for checking out this presentation, this free class. These are gems that I had to learn through blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of mentorship. So I hope this helped you guys out in the process. If you did, please like and subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment and also hype the video. That will help me. And just also let me know if you guys like this type of content style. I'm just figuring out new ways to teach and give you guys value in a way that you guys can absorb and retain over time. All right. Desmond A. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Wait, before you go, make sure you go to DesmondASounds.com, where you can get free FL Studio Patcher plugins, free loops, free guides, everything you need to level up your music production. Once again, go to DesmondASounds.com or click the link in the description. Go there now and totally transform your music production.